the juncture of Good morning, everyone. So we're now at the juncture of these 49 days. In which there's a beautiful hint that many of the sages say the most important quality for a human being to develop is a leiv tov. In fact, David HaMelech prayed to Hashem, he says, Leiv tov bara'ali Elokim, please, God, create for me a good heart. Ruach nachon chadesh b'kirbi. And then I'll be able to renew an upright spirit inside me. We need a good heart. We develop a good heart. And today we're on the 32nd day of the Omer, Leiv. We've reached that level of the heart. Now we're going to make sure it becomes good, in order that we can receive the Torah in its complete manner. So we explained, which also explains the significance, to a great extent, of tomorrow's great day, that these 49 levels represent the presentation of the Sfirot. And here I've got I think even the words of Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen are beautiful and expounded in a brief, precise, but deep manner, taken from all the earlier sources. So it says in the Chumash, Sheva Shabbatot, we should go through 7 Shabbatot, and Matzil and Matan Torah, Sifru Chamishim Yom. And we know that the Torah was given after they counted 50 days. And it says in Midrashim and the Zohar, there's a similarity between this and the way in which a woman who has a menstrual flow, before she can become purified, she's got to count Shiva Nakiyim, 7 days when there's no impurity. Similarly, we were sunk in the impurity of Egypt, and we have to remove it. But by counting it 7 times 7, because it says, Imrot Hashem, the sayings of Hashem, are like purified silver, and the phrase in Mezukak Shivatayim. If you want to say in Hebrew 7 times, you say Shiva Pa'amim. But Shivatayim means 7 times 7. So if you want the purest silver possible, it needs to be refined 7 times 7 times. And the phrase Yiki Ba'alil La'aret, Alil means purification, clarification. You've got to be able to see the purity of the metal. So this is Zayin Zikukim to Zayin Pamim Zayin. And then anyone can see the shiny, radiant silver. So the giving of the Torah, that was the highest possible purification that can be reached ever here on earth, to be able to hear the voice of Hashem. Shelo ya'od kamo, there's never anything like it. And that's why such purification was required. the same concept which applied here to Am Yisrael, all the Bnei Yisrael, reaching the highest level, closest to Hashem, to hear His voice, was then applied to Eretz Yisrael with the Shemitah and Yovel. And you can see the connection all the way, because the word Yovel appears also in the giving of the Torah. Yovel means bring everything to its ultimate source. So, at giving the Torah, we were able to bring our bodies and our souls to the ultimate source, to Hashem. And through the Shemitah and the Yovel, the whole of the land of Israel, its, especially also its social structure, will reach the highest level. Highest levels of removing barriers between the haves and the have-nots, and removing exploitation by individuals, by groups, of those that have possessions and those that don't have. It teaches us that as a nation in the land of Israel, possessing land, that land is given to us on the understanding it becomes the land of Hashem. And then it continues here that we already spoke about this, the first night of Pesach. We don't start counting yet, because it says that was the night when Hashem, in the past, and also to some extent in the present, He passes over Hashem, Pasach Hashem al Petach. He also, is implied, Hashem was willing to overlook all our impurities and save us. That's Itaruta de la El. This is the enormous spiritual emanation from high. So Hashem is by lahazriach belibot b'nei Yisrael. All kedushato is barak b'bhirut gedolat. What Hashem do? He brought in the heart of the Bnei Yisrael such an awareness of His holiness with such clarity. They reach that high level. That's why it's called a Shabbat. Shabbat. But then it disappeared. And then, in the mind of Bnei Israel, there was an enormous desire amongst them. Let's try to get back to that power from above, which Am Yisrael reached on the night of Pesach, as is known. So I think we can understand this a bit more easily, which often happens to people, because Pesach we read the Song of Songs. The Song of Songs is a very romantic, with full expression of a love between man and woman. Rabbi Akiva said, Kol Hashirim Kodesh, V'Shir Hashirim Kodesh Kol Hashem. All the different songs of the Tanakh, they all have holiness. But Shir Hashirim is the Holy of Holies. Because we say Pesach was the time when Hashem, as we said also in the morning of the Trilvah, Rastich V'Olam, we became engaged to Him. And the marriage took place on Shavuos. Now, in the life of human beings, maybe the area when mankind, each human being, feels that there is a God who has providence of what takes place, it's when a man and a woman meet one another, and there are billions of different ways in which they can meet. And it does happen that people fall in love. That means it's not this. He said, not just a question of my choice. In fact, if a question is to go and choose and choose and choose, often there's not much romance in it. When is the romance? When you feel all that it's not me, it comes from above. So looking at it from a Torah point of view, it's an itaruta de la'ela, because we say the Tzelem Elokim becomes more complete when man and woman meet Hashem. And to some extent, even the physical and certainly the emotional aspect of the bond in man and woman is a mashal, is to bring us to recognize the way in which we as human beings are bound up with Hashem, and especially Am Yisrael, it's part of Am Yisrael. And Hashem created, we say the Tefillot, Ohev Amo Yisrael, we say. Hashem loves his people Israel. So we also have to Hashem Elokeh, we've got to feel a love for Hashem. And how does Hashem bring us to this situation? He brought us a situation where it wasn't so much a question, Hashem, we were on the lowest level, but Hashem gave us a glimpse. Then we say, now, then it goes away though. Also even between a man and woman, it goes away. The laws concerning family purity, Tarat Mishpacha, the sages say, are to teach us to put into marriage a rhythm that we can get back to that initial situation when we were under the chuppah. It doesn't come back so easily. It's got to be sustained regularly. If you want to keep that romantic spirit, you've got to work on it all through marriage. Similarly here, Kodesh Baruch Hu says, right, these situations they're out of the regularity of life. How can you bring regularity of life? By putting it into certain practices. Now the same applies to people who have an experience of some sort frequently that triggers off a certain higher awareness of the power of Hashem. It doesn't come non-stop. Sometimes we have a person made experience, and said a most extraordinary experience, many different circumstances. Some will find it in the woods, some will find it in meditation, some will find it through, say, coming to the kotel the first time. So you feel a very high spirit. And after a time, it fades. Why did it fade? Because Hashem wants us to reach a high level that will be with us constantly, close to Him. And so we've got to work on it. So he says here that after having experienced the enormous pinnacle of the miracles in Egypt, of Makat Bechorot, where all the Bnei Yisrael were saved, then that level left them. In order to make it a high level that is really with us, Lachem is Tavino, that's why you have to count the 7 weeks, which correspond to the 7 holy midot. What are the 7 holy midot? We spoke about this yesterday, previous year already. 7 midot are the Sheva Sfirot of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut, which correspond to the 7 days of the week, correspond to 7 branches of the menorah, correspond to 7 of the Ushpizen, which visit us, as it were, on Sukkot. And in the prayer that is said after counting the Omer, we use the condition Tai Nafshotenu, so that we will purify our souls mitzad idarut shelanu, from our own inner spiritual experience, that we should become Mezukakim Shivatayim. We will be purified in our character until Festival of Shavuot, to prepare ourselves to receive the Torah, B'Kedusha of Torah, with holiness. So, and that is why we have in the Siddur the different permutations of these 7 midot. They correspond to the 7 human shepherds of the flock of the people of Israel. Now, this third paragraph on this page, who drew up the Torah into the universe. The 4 first ones, they brought the written Torah into the life of mankind. Why? Because Avraham Avinu, alav shalom, menui tchila shnei lapim Torah. So he now goes into a deep exposition of this, which we'll continue with Hashem in a later share. Because now that we're just, as I explained, Lamed Beit, so if you look in the Siddur, pass Siddurim, pass one of the Siddurim. I took this one, so you've got a standard page. If you look on page Maharal, page 149, there you have today's date, Yud Zayin B'Iyah, which says Hayom Shnayim U'Shlishim Yom. These are 32 days, Shem Abba Shavuot V'Abayim Ro'ot, which are 4 weeks and 4 days. Then you have here, at the bottom, left-hand side, Netzach Shevachot. Before we come on to that, I want to explain here what Hebrew uses the word midot. We speak about the midot of the Sfirot, but they're also the midot of the human character. I mean, these different qualities are midot that we have to try to improve. Can any of you tell me what is the root of the word midah?
Yavut.
Son? Or tell me, apart from meaning a quality, what else does it mean?
Measure.
A measure. It really means a measurement. It's used in the Chumash also for garments. Garments is an aspect of a garment that the garment has to be made according to the measure of the person, the measure of the body. The best tailors, they say, we make all your suits and clothes made to measure what the body needs, which expresses the body best. So midah is used frequently for the garments of the body, but it's also used in the Tanakh, and certainly the words of the sages, of garments for the soul. In other words, the soul is something very spiritual, and every person's soul expresses itself in different ways. Each soul's got its own character, and every person has got within him different midot, different moral qualities. The moral qualities are regarded as garments of the soul, and it is inherent in Pesukim, which you sometimes sing. Maybe you've heard singing. People take the Torah back into the Aron, into the Ark. Kohanecha yilbash tzedek. Your priests clothe themselves in righteousness. Righteousness is a midah of the soul, and it's a midah to which the Kohanim should aspire. We know the big tekun, the garments of the Kohanim, they express midot. That's what the sages say. let's say, the big sky blue cloak which is worn by the high priest. So you can say it's like the sky blue, the sages say, reminds us of the color of the distance. It reminds us the power that lies behind the horizon, which is the power of Hashem. That's the concept of the blue, because it's also the end of the spectrum. So therefore, if the whole of the body of the Kohen Gadol, and also many vessels of the Mikdash were covered with coverings of Techelet, is to recognize that we've got to raise things up to the level when they are really expressing the service of Hashem, who is beyond the sky, beyond the blue sky. That's the idea. I mean, there are many concepts of that nature contained in Midah. It's also very interesting. It's worthwhile to study, but it'll take a long time for many of us. In Pirkei Avot, we've spoken about already, there are 48 ways whereby a person can acquire the Torah, and they correspond also to the 48 days that we count till it comes to the last day, where we count them all together, how they all fit in together. But each quality is expressed through one of the days. So it's interesting, we spoke today that today is Netzach Shebahod, which is the easiest way for us to appreciate it is through the 7 shepherds. Netzach is the shepherd of Moshe, Hod is the shepherd of Aaron. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who brought the laws of Hashem to the people of Israel. And Aaron is the one who clothes all the laws through the service in the temple, previously the sanctuary, makes them into something majestic. And also, Hod represents what's called Omer, that means a light that goes out, the outgoing, shining power of Aaron, who, what it says in Pirkei Avot, become disciples of Aaron, who love peace and pursue peace and create peace in man and his neighbor and a husband and his wife. That's the Hod. Now tomorrow, we're not going to count the day for tomorrow, we don't have to count it, but we can speak about the midah of tomorrow, is Hod Shebahod, which is the most intensive aspect of the quality of Aaron who seeks peace. So I just want to introduce you today to an exposition of what the Omer means, and also what is the source, ultimate source, of tomorrow's celebration. And although the Khatam Sofer himself doesn't say all that I'm going to tell you, but the first inspiration for this came from the Khatam Sofer. The Khatam Sofer, he lived in a time when there were, unfortunately, great earthquakes in Safat and other places. And he said, maybe one of the reasons why Safat and that area was hit by severe earthquakes that also killed many people is because many of those who came to Eretz Israel just before his time, and that was really the beginning, you can say, of the repopulation of Jews in the land of Israel, when it was completely desolate. But we know, after the Spanish Inquisition, so many of the Jews tried to set up home in Eretz Israel, and they had great success in the Galil. It was fertile. And there they were able to establish communities in Safat also around Meron, in Tiberia, and other places. It was easier. And they're quite... and they were at the time not persecuted so much by the Muslims in that area. They were able to survive. In Yerushalayim also. But he claimed at the time that maybe the sign from heaven, don't neglect Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is still the holiest place for all of us. If you would neglect Yerushalayim, we're going to just centralizing in Safari. And there's something else about Chaim Sofer, was the greatest geniuses of his time. He lived 200 years ago. And at that time, also, Lag Omer was a day of great celebration in Meron. Hilula at the Rebbe Shimon Yochai, it's called. Really, there's three sources for that. The main source of Hilula is that it says in the Zohar that on the day when he died, on that day where he was, it was surrounded by fire, and then Elijah the prophet revealed to him many esoteric, we call Kabbalistic secrets, which had not been revealed before. It's called the Idra and so on. And he died on that day, and although generally speaking, he dies even at that time, was more widespread amongst Jewish communities to rather a day of the outside, you even fast, and you don't sing, you don't go to weddings on the day of the outside. But in his instance, since he was such a high level, so it was transformed to a day of celebration. And the celebration was also accompanied by people making bonfires. Some say to demonstrate the light of the Zohar. Zohar means the shining light that was spread to the world. And people even threw in clothes which had value. So there were many of the poskim, or in the great codifiers of the time, who said that's not the way to celebrate and make a feast. But I'm going to explain to you now why maybe this was changed. We'll soon go into the roots of it. Because it all questions what is the ultimate origin of Lag BaOmer. So the Hilula is also referred to by the sages. It was the day of his marriage, of Shimon ben Yochai, and was the day when he says that the disciples of Rabbi Akiva, who was the greatest teacher of his age, Lo nagu kavod ze vazeh, they didn't give another honor one to the other. They treated one another with a bit of disrespect, and they were all killed in a plague, and on Lag BaOmer the plague stopped. But there were no disciples left. Nevertheless, on that day, they say, it's also the same day, since there were no general disciples, but the closest disciples, there were some left. It was the day when Shimon ben Yochai received a smicha, to be able to become an officially high-level teacher of Torah amongst Am Yisrael. So the chain of smicha, which also is necessary for the Sanhedrin to continue, was able to continue. It would have been broken entirely, couldn't have continued with the Sanhedrin, but like this they could. So there's other two reasons. But with Chaim Sofer was against the celebration of Lag BaOmer as Yom Tov, not in favor. But on the other hand, he said something else. And I'll ask you, maybe you know. Where is Omer mentioned first in the Chumash? As the Mon. And when did the Mon fall? So if you work it out, it's quite a few questions. What does the mon got to do with Omer? What does Omer mean?
Barley?
Huh?
Omer is barley, isn't it?
Omer?
No, Omer is not barley. What's barley? Seorah is barley.
Don't they wave the barley or something? Isn't that the Omers when they wave the barley?
What does the word Omer mean?
To say.
Huh?
To say.
What?
Omer is to say.
It's I, that's Aleph membrane.
Ah.
Omer is spelled I membrane. What does it mean?
It's in English.
Huh?
Measurement?
Huh?
Measurement.
Which measurement?
The Omer.
What measurement is it? It just means measurement.
Measurement for the mincha offering.
Maybe that's something else.
Is it the handful that the priest
Anyway,
takes?
the word Omer, you're right, it's mentioned first in connection with the falling of the Mon. But the Mon isn't called Omer. The Mon was heavenly, it came down. And on the Erev Shabbat, 2 portions came to every person in the camp of Bnei Israel. The other days, 1 portion, which was the right amount of food and the best taste for that person, came down in the desert. It was described in the Chumash, in the Parshat HaMon. The Mon is not called Omer. But what is called Omer? You're quite right, it's a measure. A measure of what? What measure is it? So if you turn to, if you will turn to Parshat B'Shalach, says, Jerusalem Bible, page 81. There you'll find it. You want to look it up. Chapter 16 of the book of Exodus. So, at the beginning of the chapter, the people complained. We saw the miracles. In Egypt, we saw the miracle of the splitting of the sea, but now we're left there without anything to eat. And the people said, they would have died in Egypt when we had food. And here, we're all going to die of starvation in the desert. Hashem said to Moshe, verse 6, verse 4 first of all, I'm going to bring down bread from heaven. Which bracha did they say on that bread? Yeah, Hamotzi lechem min hashamayim, it's bread from heaven. And the people will go out and they gather it day by day in order to test you if you follow my Torah or not. And there's going to be double bread on Friday, the 6th day. So, if you turn to the next page, that's what happened. They didn't know what to call it, they didn't do mahus, so they called it mon. It's also a question. Now, I suppose all of you have read this passage and know about it. I want you to turn 2 pages to the end of this chapter 16. What does it say? It says there, the last verses, verse 35, Bnei Israel ate this mon for 40 years till they came to the land of habitation. They ate the mon till they came to Canaan. V'ha'omer asirit efahu. And it says before they measured how much mon, what was the volume of the mon. So the mon was the volume of an omer. You want to know what volume it is? It's 1/10 of an ephah. Now, an ephah is basically a volume of a liter. This word comes frequently, the measure of ephah comes frequently with the meal offerings. It's a reference, generally speaking, in the Chumash for a volume of flour. And we know that the Omer was barley flour. the Omer which is brought, what's to be brought on the second night of Pesach. They harvested barley grains, and then that was sifted very well, and then it was ground very well, so it's fine estate, and it had the volume of an Omer, of a tenth of an ephah, which was offered up on the altar. That's the Omer, which had to be brought to the sanctuary and later in the Beit HaMikdash. So, and the significance of this is that the Omer is mentioned first as a measure of grain in connection with the Mon. But there's a great contrast. Here it was the measure of divine food. The food, the sages say, a person can really only reach the highest level of knowledge if he's like the Ochrei Hamon, if he eats like the people that ate the Mon. Well, that only existed in the time when Am Yisrael wandered through the desert. So I think the basis of this is, I'll go into it more deeply, in due course, but you can think of it yourselves. There's difference of opinion in the Gemara. What should a person do with regard to looking after his livelihood? It says that should he dedicate himself only to Torah? So how will he be able to have enough to eat if he only learns Torah? Should he engage in agriculture or in industry or in a business or in a profession? Well, then how will we have time and head to learn? So there's a difference of opinion in the Gemara and Brachos, both are looking at inside, between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Rabbi Shmuel says, you've got to learn Torah, and you've also got to, you've also got to engage in business, or in agriculture, or to have enough food to eat. You've got to make Torah the main thing, but Menachta Ha'ara, you've got to also do work. And it's a frequent question for many people today, many young people. On the other hand, Shimon ben Yochai, he was Torato Umnato altogether. He said, if a person's going to do that, then what's going to happen to his Torah? And this is also illustrated with a story concerning Shimon ben Yochai, which you probably know about. In the Tractate of Shabbos, on which page do you think? It speaks about ships. There are many pages of the Gemara that mention Shimon ben Yochai. But at page 33 in Shabbos, it describes what happened to him. But under all circumstances, he learned and taught Torah. And because he refused to listen to the Roman decrees not to teach, went on teaching and learning wherever he was, so therefore they wanted to capture him and execute him. So he went to hiding. And as you know, that he hid ultimately, and all day was more or less buried in sand with his son that was studying deeper aspects of Torah. And in a miraculous way they were given food from a carob tree, from a fountain. They were able to survive for 12 years. When they came out, the Romans had already given up their search, weren't looking for him anymore. And perhaps also they were more lenient with the Jews. And when he saw people engaging in agriculture, in harvesting, he just looked at them and they became a heap of bones. So Hashem said, go back to your cave. But go back another year. I didn't bring about you should be released and reach a high level of learning to go and do harm to human beings because its level was too high. So they learned the lesson, they came out and they tried to then to recognize the importance of people who serve Hashem following the path of Yishmael, not his path. His path is it's only for individuals. And the Gemara also says that. Special individuals can do it. But for the wider populace, you need a combination. So I think this all goes together. That it says even, Lo nitna Torah, ela le'ochlei amon. Torah was only given to those etmon. So I think this is the origin of what's going to take place tomorrow. In other words, I even think that Hashem, He wants there to be a place in the world where the spiritual light shines. And even today, He's also working in different ways. There are plenty of people, it's still true to some extent for most people. The way to make a small fortune, how do you make a small fortune? Make sure you earn a big fortune abroad and come to Israel. It'll soon become a small fortune. Okay. So, because here there's so many needs of the people, if you're charitable, it is. Yeah? So, I think so it's implied, if you look carefully at the prophets, we're reaching a time, really, when not only is it unnecessary to have so many people working. In fact, one of the great problems of the present, what will people do with leisure time when the robots take over? We come to a robotic universe where all simple things can be done by robots. You won't need workers. They only need work, perhaps fast manual work. No, the machines do all the manual work. Just press a few buttons. And then you've got to learn how to press buttons. But you won't have to do real work. But unfortunately, if human beings follow greed, as a result of which, even if there's plenty of food in the world, a great part of it is dumped, even though it's edible, in order that certain people can make money. And if mankind goes on destroying the plenitude that exists on this earth, then we don't know what's going to happen. But anyway, the Eretz Israel is intended to be, as it says at the beginning of next week's Parsha, a land not just flowing with little honey, but a land from which plenty, physically speaking, will go out to the whole world. You read next week's Parsha, that's what it says. That you're going to, politically, at a high level, there'll be peace in the land, there'll be plenitude for everybody. So let's hope that will happen. And what will be in Israel? Israel will be a source of light to mankind, to show the path toward the service of Hashem, to make greed and war obsolete and destruction obsolete, and it said, to build together a beautiful new world. And that's a world of people who eat them on, who recognize what really question is, what's the root of the word mon? It's mana, it's a portion. That's the root. It's a portion. Mana. Because food, in Hebrew also, lechem, what's the root of lechem?
Yes.
Lilachem, warfare. Milchama, lilachem. Because that's called the struggle for existence, the economic existence. If one analyzes warfare, if a war, people want companies, they want land, which produces the money, they want more wealth. Individuals and nations want to be the most wealthy, the most powerful, to have the most buildings, the highest buildings. And that's just one physical luxuries, growing and growing. And therefore they find competitors. They start arguing with one another. Whatever you have, I want to have it. That creates the warfare, the tension. So, but that's lechem. Another word, mazon. You know what's klei zayin? What's the letter zayin? The letter zayin is a pictograph of a sword. And klei zayin is the word used for weapons. Mazon, how do you get food? If you've got weapons, you get food. If you don't have weapons, then your surrounding nations will rob you of your food. Because you've got to have weapons to protect your food. Or the source of your food, which is your land, or your factories. So you have to, but that's mazon. Seidah is all it means provisions of food. What's the root of seidah? To hunt, latzud. To hunt. Who do you hunt. You hunt other people's animals to capture them and use them. And hunters, so unfortunately, you hunt your enemies. Yeah? Try and capture your enemies. And unfortunately kill them. So that you can take over their land. So food, all the words for food are connected with fighting, competition, knocking down the others, all the exploiting those who have not, crush them under you, exploit them, use them. Yeah. But what's mon mean? Mon means mana. It's my portion in life, what Hashem gave me. That's the man comes to do with mana. Each person is given a portion in life. Is there Ashir? Who's the wealthiest person in the world? As Omer b'chelcho, he's happy with my portion. Hashem's given me my portion. I don't want to take from anybody else. I've preserved my portion to have enough for me. And with that I'm happy. Then you're always happy. If it's a larger portion, I'll give away to others. I don't need it, so I'll give it to others. So there's certain regulations how you can look at everything you've got in life as my portion, and therefore have constant happiness. The richest, most powerful people, also the ones where you find the largest number of nervous breakdowns and suicides. Because they destroy themselves. They don't have happiness. It comes a rush for more and more. When happiness comes, so that's the mon. And the mon is connected with the Omer. And connected particularly with tomorrow. Why? Well, that's the day when the mon started. That's the first mention of Omer in the Tanakh, a great principle which is followed through Hita and the Zohar, and followed through Rebbe Tzadok, follows it through. You want to understand any concept in Torah? See where the concept is mentioned first.